At 16, Alex had never felt the soft touch of a bed or the warmth of a comforting home. He had grown up in foster care, bouncing from one family to the next, never staying in one place long enough to feel like he belonged. By the time he was 18, Alex was living on the streets of Chicago, wandering between alleyways, trying to stay warm in the brutal winters. But despite everything life had thrown at him, one thing burned brightly within him, a dream that refused to die. "I'll go to college one day," Alex would whisper to himself as the cold wind cut through his thin jacket. Harvard. "I'll make it there one day." It wasn't just a random dream. Alex had fallen in love with the idea of education at a young age. He would sneak into libraries whenever he could, devouring books on everything from history to science. He didn't have a computer, but he knew that knowledge would be his ticket to a better life. A moment of kindness, one freezing winter night, Alex sat huddled near a bus stop, clutching a tattered book on philosophy, trying to keep his mind focused on the words rather than the hunger gnawing at his stomach. His coat, worn and threadbare, did little to protect him from the cold. A well-dressed woman passed by, carrying a warm coffee cup in her hand. Without a second thought, she stopped in front of him. "Hey, you look like you could use this more than I do," she said, offering him the coffee with a kind smile. Alex's eyes widened. It wasn't just the coffee, it was the kindness. People often ignored the homeless, as if they were invisible. But this woman, she saw him. She didn't look away or pretend he wasn't there. "Thank you," Alex muttered, his voice barely a whisper. "Are you okay?" she asked, noticing the slight tremble in his hands as he held the cup. "I'm fine," Alex replied. But the truth was, he hadn't felt fine in a long time. The woman didn't press further. Instead, she sat down beside him and they talked for the next hour. She was a teacher at a local school, and when Alex shared his dream of going to college, she didn't laugh or tell him it was impossible. Instead, she listened carefully. "You know," she said thoughtfully, "Harvard University is one of the most prestigious schools in the world, but it's not just for the wealthy. It's about the passion and drive to learn. If you're serious, there are ways to get there." The struggle with renewed hope, Alex began working harder than ever before. The coffee and the conversation had ignited a spark, and he wasn't about to let it die out. The woman, who introduced herself as Mrs. Clark, gave him a notebook and told him to keep a journal of his goals. Every night, Alex would round his plans for the future, knowing that each small step he took would bring him closer to his dream. But life on the streets was far from easy. He often had to survive by scavenging for food, and there were nights when sleep felt like an impossible luxury. He still didn't have a stable place to live, and his chances of getting into college seemed slimmer with each passing day. But Alex refused to give up. He found a shelter that offered free internet access, where he would spend hours after working odd jobs, researching scholarship programs, writing essays, and studying for the SATs. An unexpected turn one evening, as Alex was heading to the shelter after a long day of work. He noticed a small crowd gathered around a street performer. His curiosity piqued. He approached the group and saw a man playing a violin with extraordinary skill. The music filled the street, captivating everyone nearby. Moved by the music, Alex approached the performer and, for the first time in months, allowed himself to feel something other than the struggle. He sat on the curb, listening to the melodies, and before he knew it, tears were streaming down his face. The violinist finished his piece and smiled, noticing the tears. "Hey, are you okay?" he asked, his voice warm and friendly. Alex wiped his face quickly and nodded, embarrassed. "Yeah, it's just your music. It made me realize something." The violinist, noticing the sincerity in Alex's eyes, asked, "What did it make you realize?" "It made me realize I can keep going. I've been stuck in a rut for so long, but maybe there's still hope for me." The violinist paused for a moment, then said, "You know, I was once where you are. I had nothing but music, and the kindness of strangers brought me back. Don't give up on your dream. The world is full of opportunities for those who never stop believing." The breakthrough with that encouragement, Alex pressed forward, driven by the words of the violinist and the kindness of Mrs. Clark. When he finally received his XAT scores, he was overjoyed to see that he had passed with flying colors. It was a long shot, but Alex applied to Harvard, writing about his struggles, his determination, and the kindness he had received from strangers along the way. Months later, Alex received an email that would change his life forever. He had been accepted into Harvard University with a full scholarship. The climax, standing outside the Harvard campus on the day of his acceptance, Alex took a deep breath. He had made it. Against all odds, he had overcome homelessness, hardship, and self-doubt. The years of struggle, the late nights spent studying under dim lights, the small acts of kindness from strangers, everything had led to this moment. He thought back to the woman with the coffee, to the violinist who shared his story, to Mrs. Clark who had believed him when no one else did. Each of them had shown him that kindness, generosity, and self-belief could create miracles. As Alex walked across the campus, now a Harvard student, he promised himself one thing: he would pay it forward. He would become the person who inspired others, just as he had been inspired. The message: dreams don't come with an expiration date. Alex would often say in his new role as a mentor to underprivileged students, no matter where you start, you can always get to where you want to be. Sometimes, all it takes is the kindness of one person who believes in you. And so, Alex's journey continued, not just as a student, but as a symbol of hope, showing the world that with enough determination, compassion, and hard work, anything is possible. The end, this story is a tribute to the power of human connection, the importance of believing in yourself, and the remarkable difference one act of kindness can make in someone's life.